Hi, I'm Arthur. Today's topic is different. I know I make jokes often about how I have no set format, but I come to realize that I want to discuss things that matter a bit more to your interpretation of the setting rather than just the setting itself. You know what I mean when I say that, right? 40K as a setting is expansive. I wouldn't have a channel with as many videos as I do now if it wasn't, but in general, the setting itself has so much going on that not many people take the time to give cross-sections to individual interpretations of events and characters. Sure, there are factual ways to discuss situations, like the devastation of Baal was probably a shitty time to exist on Baal. What I'm getting at is more the why of the situation, not the what. I am not the best lore scholar, and I never pretend to be. I condense media down so that it is easier to consume rather than just tell you what the thing is. I have immense respect for people who can do the research, write the notes, and give a coherent account of what actually happened, but for me, I always preferred individual moments rather than the grand sweeping plots of some narratives. I'm a forest for the trees type of guy, so reading a lot of books, I tend to tune out for some reason when there is a description of a grand sweeping battlefield without any focal point. I enjoy hearing about battles from the perspectives of individuals who take place in them. Good example, when Talos Valkyron and the rest of the 10th Company in the Night Lords trilogy were fighting a small war against a Warhound Titan. It was specifically from the perspective of one or two individual Space Marines throughout the entire battle, not just viewing the battle from a top-down perspective. It's one of the reasons why I find Space Marines fun to read about. They are essentially one-man armies, so you can have an entire battle from their perspective and still get their perspective on it. Like when Uriel Ventress is running face first into a gun line with a bunch of pissed off cultists firing at him, I pop off because that's fucking dope, but I'm not getting any deeper narrative connection to the situation. It's cool, but it's not something that I'm as interested in as the smaller notes. Not to sound like I smell my own farts, but I like the loud moments of 40K, but I adore the quiet ones. It's why one of my favorite characters is always going to be Conrad Kurz. He is a shitty person, a cannibal, a monster, but I know that no matter what situation he is in, it is going to end up a lot more interesting than if it were any other Primarch involved. It's the silence of what wasn't said that makes me endeared to certain characters, so for the longest time, I found characters I loved, characters that in general, I would count among probably the most well-written war stories I've ever heard. But there was a day I decided to pick up a single book that genuinely changed my perception of how Space Marines could be written. I'm not going to beat around the bush and be cute with this building soliloquy. I'm going to talk about one specific Space Marine. The book that changed my perception of the universe was Hell's Reach, and that Space Marine was Merrick Grimaldis. He is the protagonist of Hell's Reach, and I will say that book paints him in a light I had up to that point never seen a Space Marine been shown in. Sure, they know no fear, they are tough, but in this book, it paints a very complex psychological profile of Merrick in a way that immediately grabbed. The first line of the book goes so fucking stupid hard that I find myself thinking about it almost every day ever since I've read it. For those who don't know what the first line is, I'm going to play a brief excerpt of what he said in that beginning portion of the prologue and give you a breakdown as to why this is the prelude to one of the best books I have ever read.
I will die on this world. I cannot tell where this conviction comes from. Whatever birthed it is a mystery to me, and yet the thought clings like a virus, blooming behind my eyes and taking deep root within my mind.
That specific clip was from the Hell's Reach animated film that a fine lad did on YouTube. You should check it out. It's a good supplemental watch after reading the book, but it does stand definitely on its own. I'll leave a link to the part 1 in the description. The line, I will die on this world has such a bite to it. It goes against almost all of the writing I have ever seen as a pretty active reader for 40K literature. It doesn't portray strength in the Space Marine. It does the exact opposite. It shows that Merrick Grimaldus, recently appointed Reclesiarch of the most stubborn, glory-obsessed chapter of hyper-xenophobic Space Marines, is afraid. He has doubts. He wishes to not be in this situation. It very much echoes the speech Sanguinius gave on the walls of Terra during his siege in the Horus Heresy, about how he doesn't want to be here. He wishes he could leave, but he has no choice. Merrick Grimaldus has resigned himself to be in a situation where he is going to die, and he does not like it. He hates it, in fact, expressing that he despises the world of Armageddon on many occasions, and his doubts in his ability to even do anything in the face of an almost impossible task are draining him of the ability to command properly. There are just entire swaths of this book that read like you are a fly on the wall listening to Grimaldus write how he feels about the situation and how terrible it is. It is incredibly human of him. There is a lot left to interpret because there are scenes where he will show he is frustrated but not elaborate on it. So it's up to you, the reader, to interpret why. The silence of the scene serves to give you that freedom, and I fucking love it. There are so many scenes with this specific character that I resonate with on a deep level. None more than the final scene. Spoilers for the ending of Hell's Reach. I'm going to give you, like, a 5-second warning to stop watching here and go read the book because I genuinely want you to. It doesn't matter your level of knowledge on the setting, there is almost a universal appeal to this book. It is written so well. So yeah, 5-second warning. Okay. 5-second. Why the fuck did I choose that clip? Never mind. But, yeah. At the end of the book, Hell's Reach more or less falls to the invasion of the orcs, which is the premise of the whole book if you didn't know that already. Essentially, a massive city known as Hell's Reach on the planet of Armageddon is being besieged by the largest orc Wa to have ever been seen up to that point. And Grimaldus is in charge of protecting this city that is still recovering from the last war of Armageddon that happened years ago. The city is in no way defensible, and every chapter, more and more of the minimal defenses they have are being stripped away, to the point where only a handful of Space Marines, alongside Grimaldus, are stuck in one final spot with a small convent of Sisters of Battle and a few guardsmen to defend against thousands of orcs that still remain. It is probably one of the best last stands I have ever seen in fiction, and it ends with every single character in the church dying except for 2, Merrick Grimaldus and a single guardsman named Andre. Andre served as a sort of comedic relief character throughout the entire story, being friendly, loud, fun, and uplifting with a funny accent, and he keeps talking to another soldier about how if they both survive the war, he's going to find her wherever she is and marry her. He treats even Space Marines like Grimaldus with a degree of equality. Even knowing they are above him, he talks to Chaplain Grimaldus as if he's just another guardsman. He confesses his plans to marry this woman, being stationed in a very different part of Hell's Reach. Small clusters of guardsmen at the end of the book did survive, but there was this one scene that happened as Grimaldus saw the little man on his way back to his Thunderhawk to be brought back to his flagship. He saw Andre, and he simply asks him, "Your friend, your love, did you find her?" To which Grimaldus remarks to himself, "I am no judge of human emotion, but I see his smile turn fragile and false," as Andre replies simply, "Yes, I did find her." There is so much power in that exchange. It is so well crafted to show that both of these individuals are so far removed from being able to convey how they feel that they just come off as almost childlike in a sense. Grimaldus obviously wants to comfort his fellow warrior, and Andre obviously wants to grieve for his lost partner, but neither can show these emotions. That is as far as they go, but this exchange shows how you can make Space Marines human. Righteous indignation, fury, wrath, and the like are wonderful emotions. They bring color to this dark setting, but one thing I find is rare, but a treat to experience, is when they cover the somber notes of fear, betrayal, loneliness, and this ineptitude to express yourself. I find the way this book portrayed Merrick Grimaldus endears him so much to me that this is the reason I immediately got a Grimaldus model for my army. He is probably the most human Space Marine I have ever seen, the hero of Hell's Reach and one of the last survivors of it. I haven't read as much about him outside of Hell's Reach. I should do that. But ever since this book, I have looked at Space Marines in a very different light, as they can all breathe, become characters, be frustrated at shitty situations, and be annoyed at your shitty fucking boss abandoning you doing something awful. If you haven't learned anything from this video, it's that you need to read, watch, or fucking snort Hell's Reach. If you are the type to resonate with deeply imperfect characters, it is a fantastic book for you. But that's probably just me, and I'm hoping some of you. What do you all think of Hell's Reach? Do you think it's fun, epic, good last stand? Or maybe the 428th last stand of the Crimson Fists did that one time was cooler? Regardless, let me know in the comments. I wanted to make something a bit more personal rather than my normal shtick, so I'll be on the prowl to kind of see what you all have to say. Also remember to like and subscribe, as it helps the channel immensely. Lastly, I want to thank my channel members for supporting me for this month. If you want to see my content early, or even get exclusive content, then become a channel member today. Side note, Black Templar Primaris models are just the fucking greatest shit. Look at this fucking guy.